Good morning, everybody. So this is Dharma Talk with Fred, with discussion, and this weekend together is called Nurturing Community. Deepening our practice equals helping others. And Fred's talk is personal transformation and the transformation of others, non-duality in action. So I haven't, tomorrow morning, of course on Sundays we give a formal Dharma talk. I sort of haven't prepared a formal Dharma talk this morning. I really want to talk with you about, for this community, and as I look around a year later, for many of us, we've really become a community, not just in words, by what we call ourselves, but because we have lived and worked together in this past year. We call each other brothers and sisters, right? Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, brothers and sisters in the Order. And yet, if we are truly brothers and sisters, we have to know each other. It's easy to say, I love somebody at a distance. The real test is, can I love somebody close up? It's easy to call somebody my brother and sister when I just meet them under ideal circumstances, when everybody's very civilized. But if people are really my brothers and sisters, I know them, I interact with them. They are guests in my home, I am guests in their home. So if we call each other brothers and sisters in the Dharma, but we don't know each other, and they don't know our families, then we really haven't crossed a bridge yet. We're still holding back. And the path of the Bodhisattva, and the path, I believe, of sangha, as Thich Nhat Hanh, as Thai is delineated, is sangha as family. Family, again, because family connotes close relationships, loving, supportive, caring, consistently present relationships. But we also know family also means challenges, difficulties, differences, conflicts, right? That's also part of family life. And so to embrace sangha as family, the OI community as family, is a willingness to step into the cauldron of intimate relationships, and not to hold back. Last night, in our talking about openly sharing our aspirations with each other, I referred to privacy. Privacy is very much part of our culture. It is a goal for maybe less so these days, but probably for many of these days. for children to have their own private room. Right? That's a sign of kind of moving up in the world, right? Yeah, your children have their own private room. We all have our own private rooms. And we have our private space. We have our personal space. We need our private time. We need our alone time, don't we? Buddhism really asks the question, what is this self that needs to be alone? The world of family in the truest sense, the world of community in the truest sense, is the world of no separation. Non-separation could be called non-duality, it could be called the emptiness of things, it become the world of non-self. I mean, there are many names. But as it is lived, it means that there is no thing, no person, no self, no individual, no entity that stands apart from anything. It is not a philosophical stance or a psychological stance. It is an experience. And all the teachings of the Buddha, all the teachings of the Bodhisattva, the 14 mindfulness trainings are just an expression, a guideline, a map of how to live that. But the wellspring of where those 14 trainees and those bodhisattva precepts and everything are coming from is this profound understanding of non-separation, non-duality, non-self, interdependent. If I think I am in this world just to take care of my needs, then I am upholding the world of separation. If I am in this world thinking I am only here to take care of your needs, I am also upholding the world of separation. When there's no separation between my needs and your needs, there's no labeling of the needs and who they belong to, but there's just a spontaneous, natural responsiveness to all situations. The walls break down. I think that is often actualized by the word yes. I think that's a very, yes. I think yes is a very powerful word. The word yes implies an openness and a readiness to enter and respond to life consistently. No is very much how we protect, how we step back, how we wall off, how we first say, well, first let me check this out with myself. I got to check this out with myself first to see what he's got to say about this. So let me, before I say yes, The world of selfless service is the world where the self is not saying no. It's just responding. It's yes. When we are always protecting this thing called private space, my needs, my wants, it is a lonely life, that kind of life. Because there's always a wall around us, and there's always something to protect. Something that's more important. What's more important? I'm more important. Helping others, helping oneself. I would posit to you that there is no distinction. To truly help another human being is to enter them, to become them, to be them. In that experience, all our self-concern, all our self-consciousness is gone. And we have entered the world of non-self, as well as we are doing good for another human being. So there is something qualitatively different and wonderful in taking the practice of non-self away from our personal world, our individual world, our cushion world, our formal practice world, and willing to take it into the world of human beings. And there are lots of good reasons for that. It was so wonderful this morning when I came into the Dharma hall and I heard some kind of music, right, coming from the street. We don't want our mindfulness, our meditation, our meditative life to become another way that we say no to the world. That we don't make our meditation center another extension of our need for privacy. It's not only this bell here that is the sound of the Dharma, that is the voice of the Buddha, that brings us back to our true self. It is the sound of music coming in off the street. It is the same sound. And so in the world of non-duality, of non-separation, everything is let in and through. The key point is nothing sticks. Many people feel they have to wall themselves off from the world, from certain situations, from negativity. They have to be very careful. They have to be very selective in what they do or don't do, because there is a sense that if they let too much in, right, somehow we will be contaminated, we will be stressed, we will be exhausted, we will, right. But that's not really the way it is. You know, if there is, what's that sticky stuff? Flypaper. Right? If there's flypaper, then the flies will get stuck. Otherwise, there's a good chance they may fly in one window and out the other window. They don't get stuck. The only reason that we get stuck is because there's a self. And there's incorrect usage of the mind that grabs onto things. But if our practice is deep enough in the simplicity of this awareness, things just arise and pass away. Things just arise and pass away. Things just arise and pass away. Which is what things do. I mean, it is the nature of all phenomena, whether it's phenomena that arises to any of the five senses or the phenomena that arises to the mind in the realm of thoughts or feelings or perceptions. All phenomena arises and passes. All phenomena has very tiny shelf life. And if we learn just to let it be, and not to grasp, and not to judge, and not to evaluate, and not to assess, and not to manipulate, and not to push and pull, and all those things that exhaust us, we don't have to worry about being overwhelmed. We don't have to worry about good versus bad, or good environments versus bad environments, or negative sounds versus beautiful sounds. Good people, bad people. Only a self that stands outside experience and judges. And it's in our judgment that we create this grasping that creates the kind of mental stuckness or heaviness that disturbs us. It's not the phenomena. We have to make sure that our personal practice of mindfulness and our community practice of mindfulness, again, does not become another excuse to wall ourselves off. If we are practicing sincerely and diligently, openness will be something that we will experience. And we will look back over time of practice and feel that we are becoming more open. Right? Open means open. Right? When the windows are closed, fresh air can't come in. When the windows are open, the breeze can come through. It's open. Also, when it's open, we can't control it, right? Like we couldn't control the sounds that came in from the streets this morning. That could be the downside of having open windows, or it could be something that's wonderful. It lets us know what's going on out there. We want to know what's going on out there. So we want our personal practice, our Order of Interbeing practice, our community practice, our sangha practice to be a way of deepening openness, acceptance, love. And this is all the practice of non-separation. There are lots of words in Buddhism, such as non-duality, such as non-self, such as the emptiness of phenomena, etc., that people reduce to philosophical concepts or psychological moments of insight. But the great teachers have shown us they're they're things to be lived. And we need to, as bodhisattvas, to be willing to live them courageously. Last night in the sharing, a number of people talked about fear, anxiety, and the practice of non-fear. There can be no fear unless there's a self that's afraid. See through the delusion of self, and you'll be free of anxiety. Now that may sound overly simplistic, but it's the truth. I mean, this is not my truth. This is the teachings of Buddha. Right? All emotional afflictions arise from the self and the deluded mind that carries that false belief. With an understanding of non-self, of non-duality, one naturally has the courage to enter the world as it is and to fearlessly work to benefit others. If you have fear, please look deeply into that. Make this your practice, to look deeply into your fear, both as an emotion, what is fear, what is anxiety, and to its root, the self that is generating this emotion. This life is too precious, this time is too short, the suffering of beings is too innumerable for us to waste our time being afraid. You know, the wondrous thing about this path of a bodhisattva is just what we talked about today. That the deepening our practice equals helping others, the personal transformation and the transformation of others are the same. It's not 1-2. It's not first transform myself, then transform other, A, B. It is a co-emergent unfolding. What we do in the privacy of our meditation hall immediately needs to go out and be of benefit. It's not something we hold on to. It's not something we cultivate just for ourselves. In Buddhism, to practice Hinayana, small vehicle Buddhism, means that I am only concerned about my own suffering. Therefore, I am only concerned about my own liberation. In Mahayana Buddhism, as you all know, the great vehicle, there's an understanding that we are all in this together. We are all in this together. And our interconnection with all life is a fact. And that to only think of my well-being, my comfort, my ease, my safety is a turning our back on the truth of our interconnection, and a turning a back on the reality that we would not be where we are today without so much help from others, from our very birth, through everything in our life to this moment. We would not be sitting here today if it was not for the work of others. Right? And not even saying the work of our community and the people who transformed this building. There were people who built the original building, who created the John Calvin Church back in the 50s. And of course, there are so many antecedents endlessly to that. So it is only through the benefit of others, the kindness of others, that we are still alive, that we eat, that we do whatever we do, the cars we drive, the roads we drive on, and each of us has that in our life. So there's, hundreds of millions of variables right here. I'm not even talking about the earth, the sky, and the earth and the sky couldn't be here without all the other planets. I mean, so at some point you just accept it all. The world's a mess. Bodhisattvas are on the cleanup crew. Bodhisattvas never complain. There are even bodhisattvas called never complaining. In modern parlance, it'd be like bodhisattvas never whining. They had names like that. Bodhisattva never complains. Right? I mean, if you're in the business of cleaning houses, right? You are grateful there are dirty houses. Right? You wouldn't have a job otherwise. As bodhisattvas, our dedication is to help beings who suffer. And we say we will help all beings who suffer, right? Isn't that our vow? To help everyone. In the 14 mindfulness training Tai says, go to suffering. Right? A lot of people don't like that one. He says, go to suffering. Yeah. So it's not only the suffering that comes your way naturally. He says you got to go to suffering, too. So you know how to touch it. You know how to be present to it in many ways. And you expand your capacity, your repertoire of being able to help and benefit. So we never complain, we never whine. If we are really tired, we rest. But our tired is never a fatigue. They talk about, in the helping professions, compassion fatigue. Those of you who you might have gone to a workshop on that. It became very common in the last 10, 20 years. Compassion fatigue. In all my years of Buddhist training, I never heard of that. I was quite surprised that people get fatigued by compassion. Because actually, if you read the Bodhisattva literature, it says the opposite. Right? It says a compassionate heart is an energetic heart, is a joyful heart. Right? So why do people talk about compassion fatigue? Is there another word beside compassion fatigue? Compassion fatigue. Because people are acting compassionately, but they don't really have a compassionate heart in the sense of having a compassionate heart that also has understanding and this kind of commitment that we're talking about. We're talking about as bodhisattvas, as members of the order, we're not sprinters. Sprinters get tired if they have to run any kind of distance. We are long-distance runners. Right? We find our pace and we just keep going. It's important that everybody in this room finds your pace, and you find your pace that will sustain you for the long term, but you will not be able to do it if you do not have understanding to some degree about the self that is a non-self, the seeming permanent that is actually impermanent, the solid that is really empty, the separate that is really interdependent. The Bodhisattva is just not simply a kind, compassionate human being. The Bodhisattva is a wise human being. That is the secret. That is our secret. You know, like, what's his name? What you know? Superman, what did he have? He had kryptonite? What was that, like a thing he carried around with him? What was it?
Where he was from.
That was where he was from, but what did he, but it was...
Kryptonite was his nemesis. That was what would take away his superpower.
Oh, okay, I got that backwards. But his superpower was what?
From where he was born.
So that's where he got that ability? That's why he could fly through the air and do all that? Oh, okay. Well, we'll just take that one back then. In Tantric Buddhism, there is a saying, outwardly one conducts oneself according to the behavior of an arhat. It sort of means, one is very scrupulous in one's attendance to observing kind of moral law very scrupulously, outwardly. So that is, he said, outwardly one practices the kind of moral code, whatever, scrupulously, very into the finest grain of sand. And then it says, inwardly, one practices the great compassion of the Bodhisattva, the great heart of the Mahayana that has love and compassion for all beings. And then says, secretly, one practices the teachings of non-duality. You could say of Zen or something. And that's very important. We don't make a show of our understanding. We don't make a show of our deeper practices. Outwardly, we manifest as what? Good, decent human beings with a kind heart. But secretly means deeply in our consciousness, in our mind. We must practice these ways of understanding that actually will liberate us. Liberate us from what? Liberate us from our own afflictions, from our own delusions, from our own neuroses, so our minds are liberated. Last night there were many aspirations for liberation. If you remember in the email I sent you, I also said, ask you, don't just think about your aspirations. Think about what are your obstacles for aspirations, and then think about how you're going to remove those obstacles. Right? So it's very important that we know ourselves. As Alex referred last night, that once when he was making a very big deal, as he was wont, I don't know if he still does, about his conditioning, this gigantic thing that controlled him, so difficult to be free of. He was told, the problem is not his conditioning, the power of his conditioning. The problem is the weakness, the fragility of his practice. And what was said to Alex can be said and needs to be said to all of us. Right? The path is clear. I mean, the one thing I've always loved about Buddhism, it is so simple and clear. Right? It can't be any clearer. It can't be any simpler. Right? And for those of us who can't get it, these days there are endless of these more modern Buddhist teachers who are breaking it down in simpler and simpler. It's it's like spoon feeding us, right? It's so simple. It's so easy, right? We just went through 3 months of in our sangha studying and practicing the 4 foundations of Mindfulness Sutra, Satipatthana Sutra, right? And you notice, the last chapter says what? If you practice this, for a year, and then it keeps breaking it down until at the end it goes, and even if you just practice it for a few hours, you will have, great liberation and transformation. Right? Just devote half a day to it. But we're too busy. We have things to do, errands to run. So simple. 2,600 years, generation after generation, teacher after teacher, master after master, first-rate masters, second-rate masters, third-rate masters. There is no obstacle to liberation. Other than what? Our own half-hearted efforts. Our own belief in these things called our conditioning. In modern parlance, that would be what? My issues. Do I have issues? Big issues. Giant issues. Overwhelming issues. There's no such thing as an issue. Can anybody show me an issue now? I'd love to see one. Now, as a psychotherapist, I spent 30, 40 years listening to people talk about an issue. So I'm not saying that people don't talk about their issues and refer to their issues. In Buddhist, traditional Buddhist dialectics, that's called the horns of a rabbit. One can talk endlessly about the horns of a rabbit, right? One can have great discussions about horns of rabbits. But the truth is, rabbits don't have horns. But yet one can, have great discussions about imaginary horns of rabbits. All the destruction can be wreaked by rabbits with horns. We cannot show each other our issues because they don't intrinsically exist. There is a reason we can't show each other our childhoods, good or bad. There's a reason. They don't exist. Other than what? Thoughts. And you cannot grasp a thought, you cannot Thoughts don't exist in any intrinsic way, do they? So why be bothered by them? If you want to have thoughts, have ennobling thoughts. Right? If you want to have thoughts that create happiness for you and others. Right? I mean, if you're going to have thoughts, you might as well have those kinds of thoughts. I mean, just from a practical point of view. I mean, why have an anxious thought? Charlie, tell me. Can you think of a good reason? What? Robert, why have fear? Can you think of a good reason? What? No. Isn't it wonderful? We have moments of clarity. We go, no, that's crazy. Why would a sane person who wants to have a happy, good, rich life cultivate thoughts that create misery? Huh? Yeah. We have to think like this. We have to think like this. Now see, remember I said last night, you read Shantideva, and I think many people in our sangha, we've had several intensives, this is, in Tibet, they consider the head to be highest, feet to be lowest. So actually, when people greet each other, they touch foreheads. The way we shake hands, they touch foreheads to each other, because that's like greeting somebody with the highest thing. Whenever anybody hands you anything to do with Dharma, the first thing they'll do is put it on their head. Right? I mean, that could be a Dharma book, it could be a scrap of paper that has the word Dharma written on it. They'll always touch it to the head, because it is honored. I'm not just talking about, monks, no, I'm talking about ordinary people, the whole culture. Because they understand that even though this appears as a book, in it are teachings that have the power of liberation, the most important thing in this world. So they would always, if you gave them anything, a Buddha statue, put it on their head, because it represents. This, if I had 1,000 heads, I'd put it above that head. This Shantideva is the whole path to liberation is here in verse. As you know, those of us who've read it now many times together. But not only is the whole path of the 6 paramitas, the Bodhisattva path here, so clearly, it is done so soulfully, so humanly, so personally. Shantideva reveals his heart. He reveals himself so intimately. But those of us who've been in the intensives, the one thing that always has struck me is before he begins the chapters dealing with the 6 paramitas, ending with meditative concentration, wisdom, insight. Before he begins, generosity and patience and all the various paramitas, he begins with the generation of bodhicitta. It's very instructive. It's why last night I felt it was so important that we begin our retreat with our aspiration. Because if you truly have an aspiration to always think of others ahead of oneself, to always, even in situations where you have a strong sense of self or self-need, to at least give equal accommodation to the view of the other or the others. If you always want to end people's suffering, to be helpful, right? If you always want to maintain self-awareness, to be mindful and present, if that is your overreaching commitment for your life, then everything you do, every encounter you have, whether it's at home, with people you live with, whether it's at work, with people you work with, whether you're out and about in a convenience store, in Publix, whether you're at your sangha, it will all be the same. Many people feel fragmented. There's somebody at home, there's somebody at work, there's somebody when they go out, there's somebody there when these people. We need to find that authentic place for each of us that is consistent over time and place. Right? Bodhicitta is that one. That's why Santideva says, this is most important. Before you even set out on your Dharma journey, cultivate bodhicitta. He says very clearly, every Buddha has cultivated bodhicitta unceasingly until their full enlightenment. There is no other way. And once you have that as your aspiration and your intention, life will be easy. Life will be easy. You know? Because in every situation, no matter who you're with, you're always what? Seeking the good. Seeking to create value and meaning. No matter what you do or no matter where you are. Then life becomes very simple. You would no longer picking and choosing, I want this, I don't want that, I want this kind of experience, I don't want that kind of experience, this kind of person, not that kind of person. You see, that's all the criteria of a self. Thinking it can find happiness by manipulating life. The Bodhisattva doesn't seek happiness in that way. Right? The Bodhisattva seeks happiness through their profound and deep understanding of the nature of reality. And the Bodhisattva seeks happiness by having this open, loving, compassionate heart as their constant companion. What else do you need? I don't know. A nice vegetarian meal now and then, that'd be nice. A good cup of tea. What do we need? In one of the 14 trainings, it says, "Do not take as the aim of your life what? Comfort, ease, fame, money, power." We need to, as members of the Order of Interbeing, as aspirants, we need to really think about what is the purpose of my life. Again, seeking comfort and ease is very much the American goal. I mean, that's the purpose of life. Right? I mean, we live in Florida. Right? I mean, this is people's dreamland, right? Work hard, and then come to Florida and what? Have a life of ease, comfort. Right. But the trainings say that's not the purpose of life. Our purpose in life is not to find a little comfortable little place where we can hide. Shutting out. Our purpose in life is to awaken all our innate capacities, to awaken, to enlighten, to light up all the capacities of our mind and heart, and to be of benefit to others, right? Wherever and whenever. You know, Darlene brought her Shantideva for some reason. What did I forget? Why did you bring it anyhow? I'm glad she brought it. Every time I pick it up, as I picked it up now for 40 or 50 years, I go, why don't I read this every day? I mean, just opening the book anywhere is like, you know, drinking from the most refreshing, cool water. I thought this was wonderful. This is a little stanza about our life as members of the Order of Interbeing. This is stanza 55 in the chapter called Vigilant Introspection. Shantideva writes, with perfect and unyielding faith, with steadfastness, respect, and courtesy, with conscientiousness and awe, work calmly for the happiness of others. Isn't that beautiful? With perfect and unyielding faith. Faith in what? Faith in your own capacity to awaken. Faith in your own inherent Buddha nature. Faith that this is the true path in life. And again, faith in Buddhism means confidence, trust. It's not blind faith. With perfect and unyielding confidence and trust in the path and in your capacity to live it, to manifest it. With steadfastness, bum, 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 bum. Not up and down, not back and forth, not in and out. Steadfastness, steady. Right? The marathon runner, long, steady pace. With steadfastness, respect and courtesy, right? We should greet every sentient being with respect. Even, especially those we deeply disagree with. Every human being is worthy of respect because every human being has the capacity for awakening. You know, we have the capacity, each and everybody sitting in this room, we have the complete, absolute capacity to be a total asshole. Everybody in this room does. And I'm sure there's some sitting here who can actually attest to that. Right? I hope I'm not revealing any dark secrets. And yet, here we are, in spite of ourselves, sitting here listening to Shantideva. Every human being, no matter how terrible, has that capacity for transformation. Everybody has the seed of Buddhahood into them, so we should treat every human being with respect, courtesy, with conscientiousness and awe. We never want to lose the freshness. Thai talks about freshness, right? You know, people talk about long-term relationships. You know, that's a big thing, right? Long-term relationships. How do you keep the love alive, right? Right. How do you keep the spark alive, right? Again, there are workshops on that, books on that. But that's a big deal. But this is about this, you know. In our walking this path, this bodhisattva path, right? With conscientiousness and awe, I think he's talking about that freshness, that newness, that like the first time kind of thing. That we have, you know, in the Bodhisattva way, when they talk about joy, a lot of the joy comes from the joy of just having found a path in life that leads out of suffering, leads out of affliction, leads out of delusion, and can lead one to understanding, wisdom, you know, to leading a good life. That, just knowing that, should bring us happiness. Right? That's a happy thought. So we want to keep this capacity for awe, for freshness, for aliveness, for our walking this path, always present. And then he says, work calmly for the happiness of others. That's our job. No complaining. Right? What do they have, those signs? No whining zone. We should have that up. No whining. There are times, you know, over this past year, with all the work that's gone on, and even though we have a growing community and more and more people coming, oftentimes there have been times when certain people have felt that the workload is falling unfairly on them. We've all felt that. How come there are only 3 of us here this morning cleaning? You know, where are all the others? Or something like that. Or how come? But can you see how twisted that is? You know, how wonderful that I'm here, that I have this opportunity to serve. You know, bodhisattvas don't look around to see who else who's working along. You know, it's not like that. You know, right? When we show up here, we shouldn't be going, you know, where's Brian? He's probably home sleeping or hanging out with his wife or something, just enjoying himself. I'm here working so hard. Brian's out there just messing around. Young people. No, that's not the way we should be doing it, should we? How grateful that I have this opportunity. Yeah. And if Brian is home taking a rest, enjoying himself with his wife, I'm happy. He deserves it. I don't mind doing his job. That's the way bodhisattvas think. They don't think like the rest of us. That's why we have books like this. That's why we have teachings. So we you know, that's why we read Thich Nhat Hanh. When you read masters, you should realize they're revealing you their mind. This is how they think. This is how they look at things. Oh, I get it. Now I'm supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to just read the book and talk about it. I'm supposed to actually, you know, somebody has revealed the heart, the mind of a bodhisattva, how they think, how they act, how they practice, how they view things. Wow, it's very different than the way I do. I got to get rid of mine. I got to chuck my way of doing it and adopt his, hers. Right? See, that's what makes it so easy. I don't have to make it up myself, right? I can just adopt theirs. Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to be thinking of how I can, Brian, you know, when we talk about benefiting beings, Brian's a being. Oh, now I get it. I thought it was just kind of this general helping all sentient beings. You mean actually helping an individual? Oh, now I get it. Thick-headed, aren't we? Right. Oh, yeah, this is an opportunity. And look at my ego whining, self-pitying. Poor me. I gotta be here all by myself, cleaning or raking, or everybody else is having fun but me. I mean, it's pathetic. I mean, it's like we're still teenagers, you know? Didn't get invited to the slumber party or something, you know? It's like, yeah, Shanti Deva. So, what do you have to say about all this? We are an order of interbeing. We are a bodhisattva order. You've all read the book. You've all read the book. Huh? If we've read the book and following it, should rarely be angry, should always, most of the time, be dwelling in happiness. Our communication should be loving and helpful. We should be resolving conflicts, right? I mean, it's clear here, right? If you still find you're angry, you're still taken over by emotional affliction, you're still not happy, you're not dwelling in mindfulness, it's why, Alex?
You create your world.
Right? And your practice is weak. You're not practicing. See, we have to be honest with ourselves. We're not practicing. If we're practicing, we're happy. If we're practicing, we don't have emotional afflictions. And if they do arise, we know how to take care of them. Now, does that sound strong? Yes. You know, but I'm not making it up. That's what my teachers taught me. This is the transmission. This is a transmission about awakening, about freedom from suffering. It's that simple. If we still, you know, I'm very clear. If I ever suffer, it's because I'm not practicing. No bullshit. I'm not practicing. I'm practicing self. I'm practicing delusion. Huh? When you practice self, when you practice delusion, you'll suffer. Am I right or wrong? If you practice Dharma, you won't suffer. Even if you're suffering, Dharma will ameliorate very quickly your suffering, so you won't suffer. You know, it's 5 or 10 minutes. That's the truth. I'll shut up.